I'm standing in the courthouse bathroom staring at myself in the mirror when my phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Your DNA test results are in. The woman you call mother shares 0 genetic markers with you. My hands are still shaking from what just happened in that conference room. 20 minutes ago, I discovered my mother, the woman I'd sacrificed everything to save from cancer, had been hiding a $300 million fortune while I sold my landscaping business, my house, and emptied my retirement accounts to pay for her treatment. Now she was in the next room signing papers to leave every penny to someone she called her real son. The fluorescent lights make my reflection look ghostly. I'm Ethan Cole, 33 years old. Or at least that's who I thought I was this morning. The man in the mirror looks older now, worn down, hollow-eyed from months of sleeping in hospital chairs and watching the woman who raised me fight for her life. Except she wasn't fighting just for life. She was buying time to arrange this betrayal. My phone rings. Unknown number again, but different from the text. Against my better judgment, I answer. "Don't hang up," a man's voice says immediately, deep, urgent, with a slight southwestern draw. "My name is Robert Hayes. 31 years ago, my son was taken from a grocery store parking lot in Tucson. He was 2 years old." "You've got the wrong number," I say. But my voice catches because something in my chest tightens, like my body knows something my mind hasn't caught up to yet. "Your real name is Noah Hayes," he continues, and his voice cracks slightly on the name. "The woman you call Mother Linda Whitmore was our nanny. She disappeared with you on April 10th, 1995. We've been looking for you ever since." The bathroom walls feel like they're closing in. Through the door, I can hear muffled voices from the conference room, where Linda, my mother, no, the woman who claimed to be my mother, is calmly dismantling my entire existence with her lawyer, Mr. Kaplan, and transferring her hidden fortune to Grant Whitmore, her supposed real son. "The birthmark on your left shoulder blade shaped like a crescent moon," Robert says, and my free hand instinctively reaches toward my shoulder. "The scar on your right knee from when you were 2. She told you it was from falling off a tricycle, didn't she? But it wasn't. It was a toy police car I'd bought you for your 2nd birthday. You were trying to stand on it, pretending to be tall like me. My knee throbs with phantom pain from a memory that isn't mine. Except maybe it is. Mom Linda had always said I was so brave when I fell that I only cried for a minute before asking to get back on the tricycle. But there was never a photo of that tricycle, never a story about where it went. This is insane, I whisper. But even as I say it, pieces are clicking into place. The way Linda Whitmore could never quite explain why we had no family. Photos from before I was 3. The way she'd change the subject whenever I asked about my father's family. The way she'd panic if I ever mentioned doing one of those ancestry DNA tests, saying they were just corporate scams stealing your genetic information. Your mother, your real mother, Elena Hayes. She never gave up hope. Robert Hayes continues, and I can hear him struggling to maintain composure. She still sets a place for you every Christmas dinner. Every single year for 31 years, your sister, Paige Hayes, she became a doctor because she said, when we found you, she wanted to be able to take care of you to heal whatever had been done. Sister, the word comes out strangled. I'd grown up an only child, begging Linda for a sibling until she told me that my birth had been so difficult she couldn't have more children. Another lie to add to the mountain of them. She was born 2 years after you were taken. She's 29 now, working at Tucson Children's Hospital. She's dedicated her whole life to finding you. Through the bathroom door, I hear Linda's voice, clear and cold. Make sure the transfer to Grant is ironclad. I don't want any complications. But here's what you need to know right now. Robert says, urgency building in his voice. We're not wealthy people. I'm a retired mechanic. Elena teaches piano lessons from our living room. We spent everything we had looking for you, hiring private investigators, following false leads across the country. But we never stopped loving you. Not for a single day. And now Elena is sick. Her heart is failing. But she's holding on because she believes she'll see you again before the end. The mirror shows me a stranger's face now. Features that suddenly seem borrowed, assembled from ghosts I've never met, but who never stopped searching for me. 4 months ago, I was living a simple but good life in Salt Lake City. My landscaping company, Reeves Landscaping, had just landed its biggest contract yet with the City Parks Department. I owned it outright, built from nothing after dropping out of college when Dad died. Well, the man I thought was my dad. Mom had always said he was killed in a construction accident. When I was 7, though, I wonder if he ever existed at all. Every morning, I'd wake up at 5, make coffee in the kitchen of my modest ranch house in Sandy, and head to the warehouse where my trucks were parked. 14 employees counted on me for their paychecks. Marco Diaz, my foreman, had been with me since the beginning when it was just 2 guys with a single mower and a dream. Now we had a fleet of trucks, professional equipment, and a reputation for transforming dead yards into gardens that made the whole neighborhood jealous. Mom, Linda Whitmore, lived 20 minutes away in West Jordan in the same 2-bedroom house where I'd grown up. The carpet was worn. The kitchen cabinets were the same ugly orange from the 70s, and the basement, where I'd spent my teenage years, still smelled faintly of mold. She drove a 8-year-old Honda Civic with a dented bumper she'd never fixed, wore clothes from Target, and clipped coupons every Sunday from the Salt Lake Tribune. "Ethan, you work too hard," she'd tell me every Sunday when I came for dinner. She'd make pot roast, always slightly overcooked, with mashed potatoes that were more like paste. "You need to slow down. Find a nice girl. Give me some grandchildren before I'm too old to enjoy them." "I found a nice girl, Mom," I'd remind her. "You love Lily, remember?" "Oh, Lily's wonderful," she'd say, smiling in that way that made her whole face light up. "When are you going to make an honest woman of her?" Lily Bennett taught kindergarten at Maple Ridge Elementary. We'd met at a hardware store of all places, both reaching for the last bag of premium topsoil. She'd laughed when I told her I actually needed it for work, then surprised me by saying she was building a garden for her classroom. Blonde hair, always in a ponytail, paint stains on her jeans, and a smile that made you believe the world was fundamentally good. We'd been engaged for 8 months, planning a small wedding in her parents' backyard for the following September. Mom worked as a consultant. She said, though, she was always vague about the details. "Oh, you know, boring stuff with medical companies," she'd say when I asked. "Paperwork and regulations. Nothing interesting." She worked from home, always on her ancient laptop at the kitchen table, surrounded by papers she'd quickly shuffle into folders when I visited. I figured she was embarrassed about some low-level data entry job, so I never pushed. She seemed to make enough to get by, and that was all that mattered. My life had rhythm and purpose. Morning coffee with Lily before she left for school. Days spent in the Utah sun, hands in the dirt, creating beauty from chaos. Evenings looking at paint samples for the house, planning the addition we'd build for kids someday. Weekends hiking in the Wasatch Range, or working on personal projects like the meditation garden I was designing for the hospice center pro bono because it felt right. "You're just like your father," Mom would say sometimes, watching me work in her small backyard, fixing her fence or planting her tomatoes. Mark Cole loved working with his hands, creating things that would last. But she'd never elaborate, never share specific memories, just these vague impressions of a man who supposedly died when I was 7, but left no photos, no belongings, no family to remember him by. I had friends, a community, a place in the world. Nick Palmer, who owned the bar where we played poker Thursday nights. Mrs. Lee next door, who brought me cookies and told me I was too skinny. The guys at the garden center who saved the best plants for me because they knew I'd give them good homes. It wasn't fancy, but it was real and honest and mine. Looking back now, there were signs. The way Mom never had childhood photos of me before age 3. The way she'd tense up when I mentioned wanting to do a genealogy test. The complete absence of any extended family explained away by saying sometimes families drift apart. The way she'd sometimes look at me with this strange expression like she was seeing someone else, then shake it off and smile. But 4 months ago, I didn't question any of it. I had a good life, a simple life, an honest life, built on what I thought was solid ground. I was Ethan Cole, son of Linda Whitmore, small business owner, future husband, future father, carrying on a legacy of hard work and simple values. I had no idea I was living in someone else's stolen life. That Tuesday in April started like any other until Mom called me at work. I was knee-deep in mulch helping Marco Diaz's crew finish the Canyon View Park renovation when my phone rang. Her voice was steady, but underneath I heard something I'd never heard before. Fear. Ethan, I need you to come to Salt Lake Regional Medical Center. Come alone. Don't bring Lily. I drove straight there, still in my work clothes, soil under my fingernails, sawdust in my hair. Found her in room 512, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her in a hospital gown that made her skin appear gray. Dr. Michael Adler stood beside her bed with a tablet showing scan results that looked like storm clouds gathering in her abdomen. Pancreatic cancer stage 3C, he said, without cushioning the blow. The tumor has spread to nearby blood vessels and lymph nodes. With standard treatment covered by insurance, we're looking at 7 to 12 months, Mr. Cole. The world tilted. Mom reached for my hand, hers cold and trembling. It's okay, honey. I've had a good life. There is another option. Dr. Michael Adler continued swiping to new data on his tablet. Cleveland Clinic has an experimental treatment program combining targeted immunotherapy with a specialized surgical technique. The success rate for cases like your mother's has been remarkable. 45% achieve full remission. Then we do that, I said immediately. The treatment isn't FDA approved yet. Insurance won't cover it. The total cost, including the surgery, 6 months of treatment and recovery program, is approximately $720,000. The number hung in the air like a physical presence. Mom squeezed my hand harder. Absolutely not. Ethan, we're leaving. I won't bankrupt you for a 45% chance. Mom, stop. We'll figure it out. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with every financial document I owned spread before me. The business was worth maybe $420,000 if I sold quickly and took the first offer. My house, purchased just 2 years ago, had maybe $210,000 in equity if I was lucky. My retirement account savings, the work truck's equipment, everything else might bring another $90,000. Just enough barely if I liquidated absolutely everything. Lily found me at 300 in the morning, calculator in hand, making lists of everything I owned that could be sold. You're not seriously considering this, she said, looking at the papers. She's my mother, Ethan. She wouldn't want you to destroy everything you've built. The business you love, our house, our future. What about the wedding? What about kids? None of that matters if she's gone. And what about after? If you save her, then what? You'll both be homeless and penniless. Then we start over, I said. Together. Lily stared at me for a long moment. I can't watch you do this. It's insane. You're throwing away our entire future for someone who's already lived their life. 3 weeks later, she moved back to her parents' house. Call me when you come to your senses, she said. But we both knew I wouldn't. Selling everything happened fast when you were desperate. My business competitor, Benton Landscaping, offered $360,000 for the company. Knowing I needed quick cash, I took it. The house went for $35,000 under asking price to a cash buyer. The trucks, the equipment, all practically given away at auction. My employees were understanding but devastated. Marco Diaz actually cried when I handed him his final paycheck with a bonus I couldn't afford. You're a good son, he said. But this is too much, boss. Nobody should have to give up everything. Mom fought me the entire time. Ethan, please stop. I'd rather die than watch you destroy your life for me. Don't say that. Don't ever say that. You sacrificed everything for me after Dad died. Now it's my turn." She'd start crying. Then these deep shaking sobs that I thought were gratitude and guilt. Now I wonder if they were something else entirely. Shame, maybe, or fear that her carefully constructed lies were about to require the ultimate payment from someone who didn't even know he was paying off a stranger's debt. By June, I had the money transferred to Cleveland Clinic, moved into Mom's basement with 2 suitcases of clothes and a box of photos. The treatment started immediately. Every morning at 6:00, I drove her to the hospital. Every evening at 8, I brought her home weaker but fighting. She'd lost her hair by July, her appetite by August, but the scans showed the tumor shrinking. 22% reduction, Dr. Michael Adler announced after the first month. 46%, he said, after the second. 62% reduction. "This is remarkable, Mrs. Whitmore." All through those long hospital days, she'd hold my hand and whisper, "I don't deserve you." I thought she meant she didn't deserve such devotion. Now I know she meant it literally. I wasn't hers to deserve. By October, Mom was in remission. The miracle had happened. Dr. Adler showed us the final scans with obvious pride, pointing to areas that had been consumed by cancer just months before, now completely clear. The experimental treatment had worked beyond anyone's expectations. "You're cancer-free, Mrs. Whitmore," he announced. "We'll need regular monitoring, but I'm confident calling this a complete remission." Mom hugged me in that examination room, sobbing into my shoulder. "You saved my life, Ethan. You gave up everything, and you saved me, and I'd do it again," I said, meaning every word. "Now we rebuild together. Maybe you can help me start the business again. We'll get a small apartment, start over." But the moment we got home, something changed. The grateful, emotional mother from the hospital room became distant, distracted. She started taking phone calls in her bedroom with the door locked. When I'd knock to tell her dinner was ready, I'd hear her whispering urgently, then silence. Then she'd emerge, acting like nothing had happened. "Who keeps calling?" I asked one evening after the 5th call that day. "Just medical insurance stuff," she said, not meeting my eyes. "You know how persistent they are." Then came the lawyers. 3 different men in expensive suits visited the house over 2 weeks each time when she thought I was at job interviews. But I'd come back early from one, desperate and discouraged after another rejection, to find her at the kitchen table with stacks of documents and a man who looked like he charged more per hour than I used to make in a week. "Ethan," she said, startled. "This is Mr. Kaplan. He's helping me with some estate planning. After the cancer scare, I realized I need to get things in order." "What estate?" I asked, confused. "Mom, we don't have anything." Mr. Kaplan and Mom exchanged a look I couldn't read. "Just being prepared," she said. "Why don't you go rest? You look tired." The secret phone calls increased. She started leaving the house for mysterious appointments, claiming they were follow-up medical visits, but she'd refused my offers to drive her. She bought new clothes, expensive ones, paying cash she shouldn't have had. When I confronted her about it, she said they were from a thrift store, but I saw the Nordstrom bag hidden in the trash. 2 weeks before that day in the courthouse, she made the request that started unraveling everything. "Ethan, I need you to come with me tomorrow to Hutteru, Kaplan and Pierce downtown. It's important." The lawyer. "Why?" "There are some papers we need to review, both of us, about the future." I thought maybe she had life insurance I didn't know about, maybe something that could help us get back on our feet. I put on my only remaining suit, the one I'd kept for job interviews, and drove us downtown to the financial district. The building was 38 stories of glass and steel, the kind of place where million-dollar deals were routine. The receptionist greeted Mom by a different name. "Mrs. Whitmore, Mr. Kaplan is ready for you." "Whitmore?" I asked as we walked to the conference room. Mom's face was stone. "We need to discuss some things." The conference room could have fit her entire house. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Salt Lake City, and the table was polished mahogany that reflected our faces like dark mirrors. Mr. Kaplan sat at the head with 2 other lawyers flanking him. Spread across the table were documents, bank statements, investment portfolios, and property deeds. "What is all this?" I asked, picking up a statement from Luxembourg bank account showing a balance that made my eyes water. $32 million. Another from Bermuda of $45 million real estate holdings in Los Angeles, Paris, Singapore. "My inheritance, Mom," said her voice flat and businesslike. "My late husband, Richard Whitmore, passed away 15 years ago." Richard Whitmore, the pharmaceutical executive. "Mom, what are you talking about?" Dad was Mark Cole. He died when I was 7. She laughed then, cold and sharp. "Mark Cole never existed. I made him up. A convenient story for a convenient life. Richard was my husband, my real husband. We were married for 23 years before his death. My mind couldn't process what I was hearing. But I remember Dad. You told me stories. I told you fiction. You were a mistake, Ethan. A complication from before Richard when I was young and stupid. Richard never knew about you. I kept you hidden, raised you separately while I lived my real life with him. You're saying my entire childhood was a lie, a necessary one. But now things need to be set right. Richard's son from his first marriage, Grant Whitmore, deserves his father's fortune. I've been in contact with him for months. He's a good man, a worthy heir." She slid a document across the table. "This states that the $720,000 for my treatment was your inheritance. You're waiving all future claims to the Whitmore estate." I stared at the papers, then at the woman I'd called mother for 33 years. "You want me to sign away rights to money I never knew existed after I sold everything I owned to save your life. You saved a life that was worth saving," she said. "That should be enough." I stumbled out of that conference room, leaving Linda with her lawyers and her documents and her $300 million. The elevator ride down 38 floors felt like descending into hell. My reflection in the polished steel doors showed a man I didn't recognize, hollow and broken. In the courthouse bathroom, I splashed cold water on my face, trying to make sense of what had just happened when my phone buzzed with that text about DNA results I'd never authorized. Then came Robert's call. And suddenly, I wasn't just abandoned, I was stolen. "We have proof." Robert continued, his voice stronger now. "Your biological mother, Elena, she kept everything. The police reports, the private investigator files, even the clothes you were wearing when you disappeared. A little blue shirt with a dinosaur on it. She wouldn't let anyone touch it for 31 years. I gripped the phone tighter. "Why should I believe you? How do I know this isn't another lie?" "Because I'm not asking you for anything," Robert said simply. "I'm not asking you to sign papers or give up claims or pretend the last 31 years didn't happen. I'm just asking you to come home and meet your real family, the family that never stopped looking for you. She says Grant Whitmore is her real son, that he deserves the inheritance. Grant Whitmore is her nephew, her sister's boy. We've been tracking them both for years. She's been funneling money to him through offshore accounts, setting him up as the heir, while keeping you close enough to control but far enough to discard when convenient." My phone buzzed with an incoming email. "I just sent you something," Robert said. "Look at it." The attachment was a photograph, aged and slightly faded. A young couple stood in front of a small ranch house, holding a toddler between them. The man was clearly a younger Robert, same strong jaw and kind eyes. The woman, Elena Hayes, had striking green eyes with gold flecks. The toddler was laughing, reaching for something above the camera, and on his visible knee was a fresh bandage. "That was 3 days before you were taken," Robert said softly. "You'd just fallen off your toy police car. Elena had just finished teaching you to say 'I love you' in Spanish because she wanted you to know both languages. You called her Mama Moon because she'd sing you to sleep with a song about the moon every night." Something deep in my chest cracked open. A memory that wasn't quite a memory, more like an echo of something lost. A woman's voice singing softly. Something about the moon watching over her little one. "Linda Whitmore was our nanny for 6 months," Robert continued. We trusted her completely. She seemed to love you like her own. Then one day, Elena went to pick you up from the park where Linda had taken you and you were both gone. She left a note saying she was sorry, but she deserved a better life. We thought she meant money, that it was a ransom situation. We waited for demands that never came. She never asked for money. No, she took something worth more. She took you, and she hid you in plain sight, just far enough away that we'd never cross paths, but close enough that she could use Richard Whitmore's resources when needed. Through the bathroom door, I could hear voices in the hallway. Linda's among them, talking about wire transfers and estate distributions. The woman who'd raised me was meters away, calmly dismantling my existence while building Grant Whitmore's fortune. "Your sister, Paige," Robert said, and I could hear him smiling through his tears. "She became a doctor because she said, when we found you, she wanted to be able to take care of you. She's memorized every photo we have of you. She's read every book about childhood trauma and recovery. She's prepared her whole life to be your sister. And Elena, she's dying," Robert said quietly. "Congestive heart failure. The doctors give her maybe 6 months, but she won't let go. She says she knows you're coming home. She says she can feel it." I thought about the fortune in the conference room. $300 million that could set me up for life. All I had to do was walk back in there, sign the papers, take whatever scraps Linda might throw my way, and accept that my entire life had been a transaction. "There's something else," Robert said. "We know about you selling everything for her treatment, your business, your house. We know you sacrificed everything for a woman who stole you from us. But know a son that tells us exactly who you are. You're the same loving boy who used to share his crackers with strangers in the grocery store. You're still our son." "What about the money?" "The Whitmore fortune. Let me be clear about something. We're not rich. I fixed cars for 40 years until my back gave out. Elena teaches piano to kids in our living room. We live in the same 1,300-feet house from that photo. But it's real and it's honest and it's full of love for a boy we never stopped believing would come home." I made my decision. "Where are you exactly, Tucson? But I can fly to Salt Lake City. I can be there in 3 hours." "No," I said, straightening up, looking at my reflection one last time as Ethan Cole. "I'll come to you. I'm coming home." 5 hours later, I stood in the Tucson International Airport arrivals hall, carrying nothing but a backpack with 2 changes of clothes and a lifetime of questions. I saw them before they saw me. Robert stood next to a woman in a wheelchair, both holding a sign that read, "Welcome home, Noah." Behind them stood a young woman in scrubs, clutching a photo album to her chest like armor. When Elena saw me, she tried to stand from the wheelchair and Robert had to steady her. Her green eyes, exactly like mine, filled with tears that had been waiting 31 years to fall. "My baby," she whispered, and then she was in my arms. This tiny woman who barely came up to my chest, holding me like I might disappear again. She smelled like lavender and vanilla, and something deep in my brain recognized it, knew it had been missing it without ever knowing what was gone. Robert wrapped his arms around both of us, this bear of a man crying openly in the middle of the airport. "Welcome home, son. Welcome home." Paige hung back for a moment, uncertain. Then I reached for her too. My sister. She dropped the photo album to hug me, and pictures scattered across the airport floor. Dozens of photos of a little boy I didn't remember being mixed with age progression photos, artist sketches, anything that might help find a stolen child. "I'm your sister," she said, like she needed to convince herself. "I've been your sister my whole life, waiting to meet you." The next 4 weeks changed everything. The FBI took my statement and moved fast. Linda was arrested at her hidden mansion in Paradise Valley, a place she'd owned for a decade while pretending to be poor. Grant Whitmore was picked up in Fort Lauderdale, where he'd been preparing to receive his first payment. They'd been planning this for years, long before the cancer, but my sacrifice had accelerated their timeline. They needed me to sign those papers while I was still emotionally destroyed from losing everything. But I barely paid attention to the news coverage or the legal proceedings. I was too busy learning my real life. Elena, despite her failing heart, insisted on teaching me the lullaby she'd sung to me as a baby, the one about the moon. Her fingers, swollen from medication, still moved gracefully across the piano keys. "I sang this every night," she said, "even after you were gone every single night for 31 years, hoping somehow you'd hear it and remember." Robert showed me his workshop in the garage where he'd built toy after toy, year after year, for a son who wasn't there. Rocking horses, wooden trains, model cars, each one more elaborate than the last, all waiting. "I had to keep my hands busy," he explained, running his weathered fingers over a beautifully carved toy airplane. "If I stopped building things for you, it felt like admitting you weren't coming back." Paige introduced me to her husband, Jason Reed, and their twin boys, Leo and Max, 6 years old, and bursting with excitement about their new uncle. She worked at Tucson Children's Hospital, specializing in trauma recovery. I became a doctor to help kids who'd been hurt. She told me one evening as we watched the boys play in the backyard. "But really, I think I was always just preparing to help you heal when you came home." Elena's surgery was scheduled for December 18th. Triple bypass, high risk given her condition. The night before, we all gathered in her hospital room. She looked so small in the bed, but her eyes were bright and fierce. "I can let go now if I need to," she said, holding my hand. "I got to see you again. I got to know you made it, that you grew up kind and good despite everything. You're not going anywhere." I told her, "We have 31 years to make up for." She survived the surgery, the recovery, all of it. And on Christmas morning, as snow actually fell in Tucson, a meteorological miracle that made the news, we sat around the table in their small house. Elena had indeed set a place for me every year. And this year, finally, I filled it. "You know what's remarkable?" Robert said, carving the turkey with the focus of a master craftsman. "You ended up in landscaping, working with your hands, creating beauty. That's in your blood, son. That came from us." The investigation revealed that Linda had taken nearly $4 million from Richard Whitmore's estate over the years, hiding it in accounts she'd linked to my false identity. The FBI froze all of it. The legitimate Whitmore heirs would get their fortune back. Grant would go to prison for fraud. Linda got 22 years for kidnapping, fraud, and conspiracy. But I didn't care about the money anymore. I'd found something worth infinitely more. I started over in Tucson using a small loan from Robert's friend to begin Noah's Landscaping. It's smaller than what I had before, but it's built on truth. Marco Diaz, my old foreman, drove down from Salt Lake City to help me set up bringing 3 of my former employees who wanted to work for me again. A good boss is worth following, Marco said, even when he has to find himself first. Paige's boys help on weekends, getting dirt under their fingernails, learning that good things grow when you tend them with care. Elena, recovering slowly but surely, watches from the porch, finally able to see her grandson teaching her nephews the way she'd always dreamed of watching him grow. Sometimes I think about those 31 years of lies about a woman so broken she had to steal someone else's child to feel whole. Linda wrote me one letter from prison 8 months into her sentence. I never opened it. Paige asked if I wanted to know what it said if she read it for me. No, I told her. I know everything I need to know. She was never my mother. She was just someone who took me from my real family. The truth is, love doesn't demand payment. It doesn't hide behind lies or wear masks or keep ledgers of who owes what. Real love waits 31 years for a stolen child to come home. It builds toy airplanes for a boy who isn't there. It becomes a doctor to heal wounds that haven't happened yet. It sings lullabies to an empty room, believing that somewhere, somehow, the universe is listening. My name is Noah Hayes. I was stolen, sold a lie that cost me everything I'd built. But in losing Ethan Cole and his fabricated history, I found Noah Hayes and a truth worth more than any fortune. I found a mother who never stopped looking, a father who never stopped building, a sister who never stopped preparing, and nephews who call me Uncle Noah like it's the most natural thing in the world. Because it is natural. It's real. It's true. And after 33 years of fiction, truth feels like coming home. Elena is getting stronger every day. Yesterday she taught a piano lesson for the first time since her surgery, and the music filled the house like light. Robert is teaching me woodworking in his shop, saying, "My hands remember things my mind forgot." Paige brings the boys over every Sunday, and we have dinner at the table where my place was always set waiting. Sometimes the boys ask why I was gone for so long, and we tell them an age-appropriate version of the truth. Sometimes people get lost, but family always finds a way back together. Love always finds a way home. That's my story. It's about losing everything I thought was mine, only to discover everything that actually was. It's about learning that some sacrifices reveal who we really are, and some losses show us what we never truly had. But mostly, it's about the unbreakable bonds of real family, the kind that survives 31 years of separation and comes out stronger, ready to make up for every single lost day. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs to remember that truth always finds a way to surface and real love never stops searching. Leave a comment below about what family means to you. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful true stories that remind us what really matters in life. Thank you for listening to my journey.